They really, really, really do not like this woman.
We all watched the television coverage of just yesterday. That's on top of everything else that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see. And because we've seen it or not doesn't mean it hasn't happened. But just limited to
it isn't. It not only was her job not in jeopardy, she was just handed a promotion.
Is there anyone that Kamala Harris could appoint as her vice president that you would find reassuring?
In my second video from yesterday, I talked about the fact that Kamala Harris was not liked. And one of the chief complaints that you hear in focus groups about Kamala Harris, especially from white women, especially white women who tend to vote Democrat, is there's just something about her. Now, I explained in that video, if you guys stuck around for the full video, it was a much longer piece. You guys know me, I'm trying to shorten these videos up, but of course, there have been some longer videos that have gotten out. And of course, coming back from the doctor's office yesterday, now I've got some actual time to actually do actual content, a lot more than I thought. But the point is this right here. I figured I would go a little bit longer so that way I could kind of explain the reason why it is that the last thing you want to hear is that phrase. There's something about this person, especially there's something about this person that I do not like. Now, this right here is going to be the first of two videos that are going to be coming out today. They're going to be kind of how do I say, it's going to be kind of centered around this phrase, something about her. But it's not just something about her. It's also last night when Biden, for whatever reason, decided to give a speech that many people were already panning. And of course, he chose to lecture us on democracy when his political party did probably the most undemocratic thing you could do to remove a presidential candidate.
For my life to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think is more important than any title. I draw strength and I find joy in working for the American people. But this sacred task.
I really love, however, at the very end of his speech, he mentioned the fact that it was actually a republic. That was actually what Benjamin Franklin said, and it's actually true. We're more of a republic than anything else. Some people call it a democratic republic, but we were originally created to be a republic. Democracy is just kind of like majority rules. We have a representative democracy, yes, but there's still a restrainer in place. It kind of goes back to the whole, what is democracy? Well, it's two wolves fighting over dinner, where it is that a republic is actually giving dinner a weapon to fend off the two wolves. That's really kind of sort of what we are, as more of a democratic republic, which is part of the reason why it is the phrase democracy, the constant going on about democracy, is kind of cringe and gay. Yes, I'm adopting some language from the aristocratic utensil, but still at the same time, though, I think it's quite fitting for this section. But the point is this right here. People don't think that Kamala Harris earned this, and for the most part, she didn't. Of course, I also talked about in the video yesterday on Kamala, how it is, or Kamala, whichever one you might want to say. I talked about the fact that, yeah, they're going to go ahead and try to say that saying DEI or calling her a diversity hire is racist, which, of course, I got to be honest with you right now. When your own side is calling you a DEI hire, calling you a diversity hire, yeah, that right there is a bit of a problem. But in that long video yesterday, there was one thing that I did not cover. Okay, now, before I get to the thing that I did not cover, I want to go ahead and kind of play this right for you guys, because a lot of voters out there, a lot of people who voted for Joe Biden, who are pretty much telling the Democratic Party to kind of sort of, I don't know, go F themselves. And we'll be touching more of this around the second video, but I want to show you guys this one right here, because Dave Portnoy, as much as I dislike him, as much as I have disagreements with him, if you've lost him, you're losing a pretty big section of your base.
Oh, has he wiped the blood off the knife yet? I mean, that is unbelievable. He is saving democracy by stepping. You assassinated, in a political sense, Biden. They're acting. There's nothing funnier. All these Democrats. Oh, Biden, what a hero! You pushed him down a flight of stairs, kicking and screaming. Right. So that is a heck of a quote. And by the way, I don't think George Clooney gets to endorse anybody. Yep. George Clooney's voting. When you're a laborers union or the teachers union or police department union, you can endorse somebody. When you're just a single guy You're just voting for somebody. What do you mean you're endorsing them? What does that mean?
Portnoy will come up with Charlemagne the Fraud in video number 2. I'm splitting these takes up because, quite frankly, I think they need to be split up. And, of course, this video right here is primarily going to be on white women. But the point is this right here. This right here is kind of the feeling of the entire nation, especially those in the middle and those who are not unsure. Real American Politics has said constantly on his channel, I advise you guys go check him out, that anytime that Kamala Harris gets polled, especially with Trump or gets polled anywhere, there's a lot less undecideds. If there's a lot less undecideds, you typically tend to see a bump in the polls, not for her, but for Trump. The only area where Kamala Harris actually improves that, and this right here was a part of a CNN ORC poll, the only area she actually improves in is actually with black voters. However, the thing about the undecideds is this right here. They typically tend to go to the non-incumbent. However, in recent elections, that's actually been a trend that's been bucked. Now, I may explain that in another video, but the point is this right here. A lot of undecided voters that lean left, they would vote for Joe, but they, for the most part, would choose a third-party candidate, or they would just not vote at all, which is bad for Kamala Harris, for the exception of one demographic, black voters. But still, though, the point is this right here. It's really white women, or the last few white women that come in, the ones that we're about to talk about in this video, that actually decide the election. But let's get back on point. There was also this little bit from Aiden Ross, not really a big fan of his, but of course, when you've got a lot of Gen Z people listening, they tend to look up to their streamers. They typically tend to look up to the people they listen to their commentary from on what actually to do as far as the vote is concerned. But here you go.
Tell you this, it's still Trump 2024. I'm not no fucking liberal, libtard. It's still Trump 2024. I'm gonna stand by it. I'm voting Trump 2024, and that's it. And I promise you I am. All right, 2024 Trump. He's an American hero. All right, and he took a shot for all of us. Straight up, I'm gonna say it right now. I don't give a fuck. You guys don't have to like me. I don't care. It's Trump 2024. I don't care. All right.
Once again, no fan of Aiden Ross, no fan of John Zherka or those people there, but they got pretty big followings. I think Zherka was already on the Trump side anyways. He's kind of disappeared since he got his ass kicked down in Miami, deservedly so. But the point is this right here. Even though Kamala Harris does poll well with Gen Z, the problem is this here. Gen Z voters typically tend to be the ones that turn out the least of all the voter demographics. Black women are going to be turning out, and yes, Kamala Harris is going to get a very, very big part of that. She's also going to get some very, very simpish black males. But of course, there's going to be a lot there that ain't going to vote for her that would have voted for Barack Obama, or would have voted for a black male, or would have voted for Joe. I mean, I think I talked about that a little bit in yesterday's video, but the point is this right here. People are turned off by her, and they're turned off by her for several reasons. Now, we'll get more to that in a second when we react to the very, very earlier portion that you guys saw. But the point is this right here. This right here is not a popular woman. This right here is not a popular person, and people feel that she is nothing more than a good old-fashioned diversity hire, which, by the way, is what they're going to be hitting people with. And I also find it funny, given the Free Palestine protests yesterday that were going on when Netanyahu was here in the States, in Washington, D.C., I find it funny that she is considering Pete Buttigieg. But then again, at the same time, though, considering a gay man who's now magically from Michigan, of all places, rather than Indiana, where he was actually born, to get the Muslim vote, yeah, that's really going to go over very well. The only thing that these Muslim voters hate more than the possibility of a Jewish VP or a woman who's actually married to someone who's Jewish, not trying to be anti-Semitic or anything. You guys know me. I am very, very pro-Israel. I'm just simply pointing out the facts, just simply calling it like I see it. I do find it kind of odd that this right here would be the case, that she would even consider somebody that Muslims actually hate more than someone who is Israeli. They hate gay men, especially gay white men, and guess who else hates gay white men? Black men. Trust me, she's going to have a massive turnout problem this cycle. But that right there leads me to something else too, because a lot of people are sitting here and they're looking at this and they're saying, no, she didn't earn it. And while I do agree she didn't earn it, however, the argument kind of weakens when you actually look at the polling data that came out. Now, yes, I got to go to the orange, I got to go to the beanie guy for this right here because he reads it off and I don't read things verbatim. You guys know me, but still though, this polling data was already in favor of Kamala. Now, there's a second half to this that will come out in video number 2 about the swing and the actual mood of the country. But I want to play this first part so that way you guys can kind of see that this was the direction that they were already going.
Then you will get subsequent ballots. Voting continues until they secure the majority, and then you get your majority. Well, here's where we are today, my friends. 538 has discontinued their Trump v. Biden poll tracking because Biden's out. And they've not yet created a Harris one because Harris isn't the nominee. Ain't that something? But we do still have these polls. And in the latest from Morning Consult, Trump beats Harris by 2 points. With your standard margin of error and bias towards Democrat, it's likely that Trump has a solid 2 points up. Some might say, well, margin of error, it's a toss-up. No, but there's a Democrat bias in polling. This is true. And I am not saying that pollsters like Democrats. I'm saying typically Democrats get oversampled for a variety of reasons, and so it tends to skew in their favor. Harris versus Newsom. Harris beats Newsom by 58%. But there's more. Look at that. Harris beats everyone. Buttigieg, Whitmer, Shapiro, Pritzker, Bashir. You know, one of my favorite points. Kamala Harris would never win the nomination in any normal means. And this is the only way she can actually be the Democratic nominee. She's not popular. Nobody likes her. She's very, very unlikable to the general public. And they really want her to be the nominee? Huh.
The black bourgeoisie controls the party. That's actually what happened in 2020. Look, I got to tell the story all the time. I'm not going to tell it now about what happened in Florida. A family member told him, hey, look, you know, Bernie Sanders had no chance of getting the nomination regardless because once the race gets down to South Carolina, you get a much, much more diverse pool of voters. And most of them are black voters, and they're going to go with whoever it is that one of their congressmen endorses. Just had to be that Jim Clyburn endorsed Joe Biden. He got the black vote, and that right there ultimately decided because older black people, especially old black people, typically tend to decide who the nominee is. The plan, and this right here was actually a video that was done by Stephen Michael Davis where he actually complimented Jink on Jink actually being correct. It was actually set for Kamala to get that, not Joe Biden. It just had to be that Joe Biden did it because guess what? The black bourgeoisie, as Greg Foreman says on multiple occasions, they control the party. The Charlemagne, the God types, they actually control the party's direction. I'm just saying it's pretty daggone tribal, and it seems like she was probably going to get the nomination even if she had a hard time getting it or a broker convention. She was ultimately going to get it. That just shows you how weak of a candidate she was, which maybe that was kind of the way I said it just now wasn't the best way to say it, but still, though, she would have been a very weak candidate regardless in 2020. She had no chance. She actually was polling pretty badly against Trump then. She's just polling worse now, and she's less likable now than what she was then. I mean, dude, her unfavorability is almost as high as what Dick Cheney's was. I got to tell people all the time, and he shot a guy in the face. Just saying. Okay, so you guys already heard all of that. Okay, you guys already heard how it was that Kamala, whatever you might want to call her, Kamala blah, 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 was already up in the polls in the Democratic primary. This way is a political party that goes to the polls more often to see exactly what public opinion is. And while the polls sometimes don't always get it correct, these people tend to rely on that. I find it funny when you get into arguments with people on the left. They love to cite the numbers, yet a lot of times the numbers don't reflect the actual situation on the ground. It's almost like these people just don't want to go outside and look around what's going on. They're just going by what the media tells them. And we obviously know that the media is not exactly a bastion of truth or a bastion of facts. Oftentimes, the mainstream media loves to just prop two people up and use them as talking heads, kind of like what Eric Bischoff said in his TED Talk. They're using the pro wrestling model to get people ginned up. It's not hard to see through it, but then again, at the same time, given the fact that most of these people don't really and truly watch sports, even though sports is trying to gear itself more towards them, I have no idea why. It doesn't seem to me like it surprises anybody that these people are the way they are. But still, though, given this right here, this is kind of sort of the direction that they were already going. Go back to 2021. There were already people creating polls, and they were going ahead and polling certain people on how it was they felt about the possible Democratic candidate in 2024. Because if you guys remember correctly, Biden ran on potentially handing the reins over. Hillary Clinton got polled. Michelle Obama got polled. Kamala Harris got polled. Gavin Newsom got polled. Harris was always one of the top three candidates out of all the candidates that they chose. So it's not surprising that certain factions of the base are actually beginning to coalesce, right? And then there's also this bit right here from the post-millennial, then which they're going to go ahead and try to go with an online. And I mean, they're going to go ahead and try to go with an online crowning, which has got some people up in arms. But we'll talk more about that in video number 2. The fact of the matter is this woman did not deserve it, and people are picking up on it. But the people that she needs to vote for her, they are the ones who are noticing the most. Case in point, where we were talking about earlier. Let's go ahead and react to this.
You perceive Vice President Harris compared to President Biden in terms of competency and experience?
I think she's worse. She doesn't even know what's going on at the border.
Right.
And that's what she was
supposed to be doing
and in charge of. I mean, as a school teacher, if I did not do what I was supposed to be doing, you better believe my job would be in.
That right there was pretty daggone damning. Let's also not forget the fact that for 4 years she carried the line that Joe Biden was in tip-top condition, tip-top shape. Let's not forget that she did that for 4 years. So people automatically look at her and think that she's a liar. This is kind of sort of things in Kamala Harris's, whichever one you might want to say. This is kind of sort of these things coming to pass now that she's the nominee, which, by the way, we've been telling you about for a while and they're already exposed. The fact that she used Willie Brown to get ahead, and at the end of the day, he ended up choosing his ex-wife, which is kind of funny because she was a side piece. Judge Joe Brown turned out to be correct about his assessment of things in her past. Also, her father being a Marxist, and at the same time, not being proud of her, and the fact that Kamala Harris was actually not even raised in the United States; she was actually raised in Canada. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there who are looking at this and saying she doesn't deserve it, and she's not very bright. But let's continue.
It isn't. Not only was her job not in jeopardy, she was just handed a promotion.
Is there anyone that Kamala Harris could appoint as her vice president that you would find reassuring?
Okay, now before we go any further, I've said this about it before. There's a certain presidential candidate that's going to get a lot of unsure white women voters, suburban and even working class. Rasmussen Reports is not the chief poll that I go to, but Rasmussen Reports, they recently released a video out on the recent polling information that kind of lines up with all the other trends. I'm not talking about mainstream media trends because oftentimes those polls are designed more to shape public opinion. But the trend that it's showing, and I find this right here to be the trend that I always knew was going to occur, is that the country as a whole would probably shift 3 points to the Republican nominee based upon the job that the Democrat does. You see, even if Biden was to run for re-election at some point in time, he was going to become the underdog in this race. Same thing with Kamala Harris. It's almost a guarantee that it's over. Now, bear with me really quick as I explain this, because you're about to hear it here in a second. You got to ask yourself a question: what third-party candidate would actually get those additional votes? Well, before we get to that, let me tell you. The Rasmussen Reports poll showed that Trump was actually at 44% with women and that Kamala Harris was at 41%. Trump only got 42% of women back in 2020. He got 43% in 2016, 52% of white women, 54% of white women in 2020. Chances are he was probably going to get maybe 56 to 57% of white women. I think it's probably going to be 56, while he sees a bit of an uptick with black women, Hispanic women, and other, which is probably going to give him that 44%. Now, when the election's over with, I believe he'll end up with 45%. Now, if you take 45% of women with 61 or 62% of men, that right there is an election landslide. All right? However, the problem is this here. Kamala Harris has still got to shore these votes up to ensure that they can get back the House or possibly protect the Senate. She's bleeding her own votes, and at best, if she's only at 41%, she probably maxes out at 43%. So where do the other women go? Or even if she gets 47%, where do they go? Well, they go to...
Would make you consider voting for her?
No. Never consider voting for her. No.
I would do RFK Jr. way before her.
Yeah.
Same.
That's correct. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Have you guys ever seen photos of this guy without a shirt on? He recently released a video where he was killing a rattlesnake that was outside his porch. I mean, the guy took a progressive woman as his VP. Chances are there's probably going to be about anywhere between 7 to 10% of women, or mostly white women, women that Joe would need or Harris would need, that are probably going to choose RFK. But let's let this continue.
Yeah. And she's not the first woman to run for the presidency, Hillary Clinton. I'm assuming no one voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. So it's not necessarily going to sway you to vote for a woman in office. When do you think America will have a female president?
When there's a competent one.
I don't get a good feel for her.
I think she's an idiot.
Right.
Mary, why do you think that she's not that bright?
Because she hasn't done anything in the time that she's had. We don't know anything about her as far as her 3 years so far in the White House. She's not real smart.
When there's a competent one. Look, the second lady said she hasn't done anything since she's been in office, which I think I just went in and kind of replayed that clip anyways. That was actually the clip from the very beginning of the video. right now at this moment in time, they're trying to scrub Kamala Harris's past. We talked about this in the video yesterday. We talked about how it was that the mainstream media is now trying to say, well, Joe Biden never picked her because no, BLM forced him to take a woman of color. They didn't even pick a black woman. They picked a woman who was half Jamaican and half Indian. Okay? And BLM, by the way, is refusing to endorse her, as well as Barack Obama. Okay, figure. But of course, they're continuing the coup. But that woman right here who says she's not done anything. Well, she really hasn't done anything. She's just been in charge and just been lazy on the job. This woman was the border czar. Okay, well, she hasn't done anything on that. The border is wide open and we got people crawling all over the place. They're trying to scrub this woman. Says, oh, wait, that's right. She was the last person in the room.
In President Biden's decision to withdraw U.S. troops from Afghanistan in an interview with CNN's Dana Bash on Sunday.
He just made a really big decision. Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
And you feel comfortable?
I do. And I'm going to add to that.
The only thing that you should be adding to that is the fact that you are partly responsible, I actually think mostly, because we all know Joe never had his marbles, and she lied about that too. I think that you're mostly responsible for the fact that we had 13 servicemen die, 11 Marines, a soldier, and a naval corpsman. But then again, at the same time, though, Kamala Harris probably doesn't even know what the hell a naval corpsman is. But still, at the same time, though, yeah, this right here is the type of history that people are trying to scrub. Just saying. They pinned her with that. A lot of people are theorizing that what really happened was that Joe Biden going ahead and endorsing her was basically the death of the Democratic Party as a whole. Greg Foreman, a Black Conservative Perspective, he argues that the Israel-Palestine situation was the actual end of the Democratic Party. But me personally, I believe it started the minute that Biden got in office. The worst thing in the world that could have happened for the Democrats was Joe Biden winning, because anybody who knows Joe Biden knew exactly how incompetent he is. And people were starting to realize, well, with him in charge, I guess he was really truly that incompetent. There ain't no way in hell we want this incompetent wretch in office right now. We don't want this diversity hire in office right now. That right there is what I meant in yesterday's video when I said that these people, especially white women, when they're saying there's something about her I just do not like, that right there is the killer for this woman's campaign. But of course, you'll take the gay white man to shore up suburban Y moms. Even though in reality, that right there will probably not shore things up, especially given the fact that his first year in office as Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg presided over a massive shortage, including a baby formula shortage. And there's also the East Palestine situation where he was slow to react on that one. Of course, they'll try to blame Biden for it, but of course, they're all rats at this point in time trying to leave a sinking ship. They're all at fault for that ship sinking. Obviously, white women can sense that. They can't sense they can sense all the weakness. They can sense all the incompetence, and they're just not buying this. But you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. There'll be a second video out talking more about the Portnoy situation and Charlemagne the Fraud a little bit later on today, so make sure you guys stick around for both. The video's going to come out a little bit later on. This one's probably going to come out about 3 or 4 o'clock Eastern. The other one's probably going to come out about 6 or 7, maybe a little bit later. But then again, I also told you guys I'm trying to shift the content to a little bit later on in the evening, because I know most of you guys have got jobs and you're getting off work. So make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.